Imagine walking into a law firm, right?
Okay.
You hand over your case files, and before you even sit down with an attorney, an algorithm processes your documents and tells you exactly how your trial is going to end.
Wow.
Yeah. It gives you the percentage chance of winning, the specific arguments the opposing counsel will use, and, get this, the exact dollar amount you should settle for today.
Right.
You haven't even formally hired a lawyer yet, and the entire outcome is already mapped out.
I mean, that scenario sounds completely like science fiction, but the architecture for that exact experience is being built right now.
It's wild.
It is. We're moving away from an industry defined by towering bookshelves and, historical lookbacks, and accelerating into a reality driven by generative algorithms, real-time data, and predictive models.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a pretty massive piece of analysis titled The Future of Law: Trends and Innovations to Watch in 2026, specifically focusing on the U.S. market.
It's a fantastic source.
It really is. And if you are wondering why you should care about the internal plumbing of law firms, whether you're hiring a lawyer to start a business, working in corporate compliance, or, I don't know, just fascinated by how ancient, deeply traditional institutions are being forced to adapt to cutting-edge tech, this deep dive is absolutely for you.
Exactly.
We're going to map out exactly how justice and legal services are being utterly revolutionized.
Because the way you consume legal services in 2026 is going to look vastly different than it did even just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The structural changes happening behind the scenes are completely rewiring how legal expertise is actually delivered to the public.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Huh.
The source material points to the most disruptive force in the room,
Oh.
which is, unsurprisingly, artificial intelligence.
Right, of course.
But the analysis makes it clear that by 2026, AI is moving way beyond the buzzword phase.
Yeah.
We aren't just talking about basic e-discovery anymore.
Oh no, the rudimentary discovery phase is old news. For a long time, legal tech just meant using software to run, keyword searches through terabytes of corporate emails to find a smoking gun during a lawsuit.
Basically, just a really fast Control-F.
Exactly. It was just a faster way to read. But what we are looking at now is AI's maturation into active creation.
Active creation.
Yeah, the models we are seeing for 2026 don't just search, they draft.
I want to look at the contract analysis part of this because it feels like the leap from using a basic spell checker to having a superpowered, hyper-caffeinated ghostwriter.
That's a great way to put it.
Because a spell checker just highlights a typo in red, right?
Right.
This new AI
Yeah.
actively looks at a blank page, drafts the initial contract, and then basically says, based on the last 10,000 times someone used this specific liability clause in this state, it usually results in litigation. Here are 3 better options.
It fundamentally changes the timeline of legal work. I mean, historically, a junior associate would spend days, literally days, combing through a contract just to identify where those nuanced risks were hiding.
Billable hours, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of them. Now, the system is flagging the risk, suggesting the alternative language, and pulling the relevant case law to justify the change, all within seconds.
Unbelievable.
And it is pulling from massive data sets of historical legal documents and their actual real-world outcomes.
But the source also mentioned something that stopped me in my tracks.
Predictive analytics.
Yes, predictive analytics for case outcomes. Firms are using AI to analyze historical case data to predict how litigation will end.
Yeah, it's huge.
But I want to know the mechanics of that. Wait, what data is the AI actually looking at to know I have a, say, 12% chance of winning? Is it just parsing the legal citations the judge prefers, or what?
It looks at a multitude of variables. It's not just citations. The algorithm ingests decades of a specific judge's past written opinions.
Wow.
It analyzes how that judge rules on very specific types of motions, which precedents they cite most often, and, get this, even how long they typically take to issue a ruling.
That's incredibly specific.
And then it cross-references all of that behavioral data with the factual patterns of your specific case.
Okay, but if AI is analyzing a specific judge's tendencies to predict an outcome before the trial even starts, isn't the algorithm essentially acting as the judge before we even step into the courtroom?
What's fascinating here is how the source addresses that exact tension.
Yeah.
The analysis emphasizes that these tools are designed to augment, not replace, human strategy. The predictive analytics are primarily used to aid in settlement negotiations and, manage client expectations.
Okay, so it's leverage.
Precisely. If the AI calculates that you have a really low probability of success based on 20 years of behavioral data from that specific court, It fundamentally changes your leverage at the negotiation table. You use that data to secure a settlement rather than risking a totally doomed trial.
But wait, if an AI is synthesizing 400-page deposition transcripts in seconds and running predictive behavioral models on judges, where is it pulling that computing power from?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Because I'm pretty sure a standard law firm server closet from 2014 would literally melt trying to do that.
Oh, it absolutely would. And that leads directly to the massive infrastructure problem the industry is facing. The advanced AI is just the engine.
Right.
But you can't run a state-of-the-art AI model on clunky legacy software.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's kind of like trying to run a massive graphics-heavy modern video game on a 1990s dial-up internet connection.
Yes, perfect analogy.
The data pipeline physically cannot handle the bandwidth required.
Yeah.
If law firms want to run these generative models, they have to completely overhaul their foundation.
And the days of siloed software solutions are entirely gone. The source details that by 2026, successful firms will be operating on integrated legal tech stacks.
Legal tech stacks.
Right. This means moving away from a situation where, say, the billing software doesn't speak to the document management software, which doesn't speak to the client intake forms.
So no more paying a paralegal $150 an hour just to manually copy and paste an address from an email into a billing system.
Exactly. Everything is connected.
How does it actually work behind the scenes?
Through APIs, application programming interfaces. That is the critical technology allowing all these cloud-native applications to communicate constantly in the background.
Oh, wow.
It eliminates the manual data entry and creates a single, continuous flow of information from the moment a client calls the firm to the very moment the final bill is paid.
And for you, the listener, this translates directly to how you interact with your lawyer.
Huge difference for the client.
Because the source points to client-centric portals. If you ever hired a lawyer, you know the frustration of leaving voicemails and waiting days just to find out if a document was filed.
It's the worst part of the process for most people.
Right.
Okay.
But these new integrated portals offer secure communication, real-time updates on your case's progress, and transparent billing dashboards.
It shifts the client experience from a black box to a transparent partnership.
Yeah.
But this advanced tech foundation is also driving a massive trend toward hyper-specialization. Because firms can now process complex information so quickly, they aren't just calling themselves general corporate law firms anymore. They are drilling down into incredibly narrow niches.
The examples in the text were wild.
So specific.
Things like AI ethics for fintech startups, or my favorite, space law intellectual property.
Space law.
Yeah, I want to linger on that space law example for a second. Why does something like space law require its own bespoke AI software? Why can't you just ask a normal AI?
Well, think about the jurisdictional nightmare of space.
Okay.
If a privately owned satellite from a U.S. company collides with a communications array owned by a European conglomerate while in orbit, whose laws actually apply?
Oh, wow. Good question.
You are dealing with a crazy patchwork of international maritime laws, the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, and modern commercial regulations. A general-purpose AI just isn't trained on those obscure, highly specific intersections of international law.
So the firm actually has to build or train a vertical AI.
Exactly.
An AI tailored specifically to that incredibly narrow slice of the legal world.
That is the niche tech the source describes. If you are practicing in these highly complex emerging fields, you need an AI tool tailored specifically to your domain to get actionable insights.
But wait, if firms are hyper-specializing into things like space law IP, using this highly bespoke, really expensive technology, doesn't that make the barrier to entry for a new lawyer incredibly high?
It definitely raises the stakes.
Are law firms essentially just becoming specialized software companies that happen to offer legal advice?
I wouldn't say they're just software companies. They're becoming providers of bespoke client solutions.
Okay.
The technology investment is immense, yes, but it reinforces the lawyer's expert status. By building these custom technology solutions, they deliver targeted value that a generalist attorney with a stack of generic law books simply cannot match.
Makes sense.
The software is just the new medium through which their specialized expertise is delivered.
Okay, so we have superpowered AI ghostwriters and custom-built tech stacks running on APIs in the cloud. Innovation is moving at light speed, but the law itself and the people who regulate it usually move at the speed of paperwork.
Very true.
So how are the rule makers reacting to all of this? The American Bar Association, trying to write rules for generative AI, feels like a monumental task. like city planners trying to build traffic lights for flying cars.
That is a brilliant analogy, and they are definitely scrambling. The regulatory bodies are racing to establish the guardrails for 2026.
What's the biggest issue they're facing?
The ABA and various state bar associations are actively trying to clarify malpractice liabilities, because the primary question is, if an AI drafts a contract, misses a crucial liability clause, and the client loses millions of dollars, who is legally responsible?
Yeah, is it the software developer or the lawyer who used the tool?
The current consensus forming in the regulations is that the human lawyer retains ultimate liability.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you cannot outsource your ethical duty of competence to a machine.
Wow, okay.
And that ties directly into the malpractice issues surrounding AI inaccuracies or algorithmic bias. If a predictive model is used to advise a client, the lawyer has to actually understand how that model arrived at its conclusion.
You can't just say, the computer told me so.
Exactly. The computer did it is not a valid legal defense in a malpractice suit.
And the source highlights data privacy compliance rules as well, right? Things like the California Consumer Privacy Act, the CCPA, and potential new federal privacy laws.
Yes, massive data privacy concerns.
Because law firms are basically becoming these massive data repositories holding the most sensitive trade secrets and personal information of their clients.
Which makes them prime targets for cyber attacks. The regulations are forcing firms to implement enterprise-level cybersecurity within these new cloud-native tech stacks.
That sounds expensive.
Oh, it's incredibly expensive. But the most disruptive regulatory trend mentioned in the analysis isn't actually about software at all.
It's not.
No, it's about money.
Ah, okay. You are talking about the experimentation with non-lawyer ownership or alternative business structures, ABS.
Yes.
We need to explain the baseline here because this is a massive paradigm shift. Traditionally, a law firm can only be owned by licensed attorneys, right? Like it's an equity partnership.
Right. That is the historic rule across almost the entire United States. If you don't have a law degree and haven't passed the bar, you absolutely cannot own a piece of a law firm.
Which means a law firm cannot do what a normal tech startup does.
Correct.
A tech startup can go to Silicon Valley, pitch an idea, and raise $50 million in venture capital in exchange for shares of the company. A law firm legally cannot sell shares to outside investors.
They're locked out of that ecosystem entirely.
So how are they supposed to pay for these massive multi-million-dollar cloud-native tech stacks and bespoke vertical AI models if they can't raise capital?
Well, historically, they often can't, which is exactly why the legal industry has traditionally lagged so far behind in tech adoption.
Makes sense.
But states like Arizona and Utah are pioneering these alternative business structures. They are actually changing the rules to allow outside, non-lawyer investors to buy equity in law firms.
They're just opening the floodgates for venture capital to flow directly into the legal market.
It completely solves the capital problem. Allowing tech investors to fund these firms means they can finally afford to build the advanced infrastructure we've been talking about, leading to much more efficient and innovative service delivery for the consumer.
But I have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
If outside tech investors or private equity firms can buy into law firms, doesn't that fundamentally change the motive of the institution?
Right.
Because a lawyer's primary duty is supposed to be to the client and to the justice system. An investor's primary duty is to maximize return on investment.
Yes.
If a VC firm owns 40% of a law practice, aren't we just shifting the focus entirely toward profit margins over ethical representation?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're hitting on the exact friction point dividing the industry right now. Yeah, the source text notes significant resistance from traditionalists who share that exact fear. The concern is that outside ownership will compromise the independent legal judgment of the attorneys.
Right.
If an investor demands higher quarterly returns, will the firm pressure its lawyers to settle cases too quickly? Or, rely way too heavily on cheaper AI tools instead of thorough human review just to cut costs?
It is a massive structural collision between traditional professional duties and modern corporate innovation.
It absolutely is.
Which brings us to a really profound question. If venture capitalists are funding the firms, and APIs are running the back office billing, and AI models are drafting the space law contracts and predicting the judge's behavior, what exactly is left for the human being with the law degree?
It leads us to the ultimate evolution outlined in the text, the rise of the augmented lawyer. The analysis strongly suggests that the human element doesn't become obsolete. It actually becomes the premium product.
So what does this all mean for the everyday lawyer?
It means their daily focus shifts entirely. because the technology takes over the routine, repetitive tasks, the data entry, the initial document review, the basic legal research. The human legal professional is finally freed up.
Freed up to do what?
They dedicate their time to what machines fundamentally cannot do: high-level strategic advisory and complex problem solving.
It's like the lawyer becomes a master architect.
Yes.
The architect doesn't physically swing the hammers, cut the wood, or pour the concrete themselves. That is the AI doing the heavy lifting. But the architect provides the overarching vision.
Exactly.
They design the creative strategy to solve a complex structural problem, and ultimately, they are the ones whose license is on the line when they sign off on the safety and integrity of the building.
The text explicitly states that lawyers will focus on navigating those intricate, multi-layered legal challenges that require leaps of logic and AI simply cannot replicate.
Right.
And as we discussed with the regulatory changes, the ultimate responsibility for legal advice remains firmly with the human.
I hear that, but I have to push back on the empathy piece the source mentions.
It's okay. What do you mean?
Well, the text says lawyers will provide compassionate counsel. I have a hard time buying that.
Really?
Yeah, if I'm paying $600 an hour to a law firm, I want the lawyer doing the reading. Can a client truly feel they are receiving compassionate counsel if they know that 90% of their legal strategy was generated by a machine in the cloud?
I see a point.
If you are going through a brutal business bankruptcy, do you want a lawyer who is basically just reading a printout from an algorithm?
This raises an important question, and you're right to be skeptical. Honestly, a lot of traditional lawyers share that exact hesitation.
I bet they do.
But here is how the successful firms are trying to counter it. Trust is an inherently human phenomenon. An AI can calculate the mathematical odds of winning a bankruptcy case. It can parse 1 million financial documents in a second. But an AI cannot sit across a conference table from a terrified client whose life's work is collapsing, look them in the eye, understand their unique human context, and ethically guide them through one of the worst moments of their life.
It's the bedside manner of the legal profession.
Exactly.
The AI provides the diagnosis, but the human doctor delivers the news and holds your hand through the treatment.
Empathy isn't just about being polite. It is about understanding the human context of the law and tailoring the strategy to the emotional and practical realities of the client.
That makes a lot of sense.
The source wraps up this concept with a really striking quote. The future is not just coming, it's already knocking on the courtroom door.
Wow.
The firms that thrive won't be the ones that stubbornly fight the technology. They will be the ones that use it to amplify their uniquely human strengths.
It is an incredible journey we've tracked today.
It really is.
We started with AI moving from a basic spell checker to a hyper-caffeinated ghostwriter, actively drafting contracts and predicting outcomes by analyzing decades of judicial behavior.
Yep.
We looked at how firms have to abandon their clunky legacy software for interconnected cloud-native tech stacks, which finally gives them the computing power to hyper-specialize in complex areas like space law IP.
Which is still wild to me.
I know, right? And we navigated the tricky regulatory waters, seeing how the traditional partnership model is being upended by states like Utah and Arizona, allowing venture capital to fund this massive tech leap.
Right.
And finally, we arrived at the augmented lawyer, the human expert who leverages all this machinery to provide deeper empathy and higher-level strategy.
Exactly.
For you, the listener, this means a future where legal services are faster, more transparent through client portals, and ideally, much more focused on your specific needs.
It is a legal landscape that promises unprecedented efficiency, provided the industry can navigate the substantial hurdles of liability and infrastructure integration.
And that leaves us with a final, slightly provocative thought to ponder.
Oh, let's hear it.
We talked heavily about AI using historical data to predict case outcomes. If these predictive algorithms become so incredibly accurate that we essentially know the mathematical outcome of a trial before the jury's even selected, will anyone ever actually go to court again?
Oh, wow.
If both sides have an algorithm telling them exactly what a judge will decide, does perfect predictive AI effectively eliminate the human right to a trial, replacing our entire public justice system with algorithmic settlements negotiated behind closed doors?
That is a chilling thought.
It makes you wonder what we lose when we trade the messy, human unpredictability of a courtroom for the cold certainty of a machine. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of the legal landscape. We'll catch you next time.